Welcome to the Mother-Daughter Empower podcast, a show that provides moms with the tips, tools, and resources that they need to raise the next generation of empowered girls. I'm your host, Tara Filto. Now let's get started. Hi everyone, and welcome to the Mother-Daughter Empower show. I'm so excited. My guest today is Dimple Arora. And just to give you guys a short introduction, Dimple is the founder of Mindful Evolution, and she's a certified wisdom coach as well. And she uses mindfulness, nutrition, and energy medicine, which is quite interesting, to help her clients feel healthy, calm, and connected. So welcome, Dimple, and thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. This is a really, really important subject, a bit of a serious one, because I know that on our show kind of the subjects shift, but we're talking today about eating disorder, and it was actually a subject that was asked, from our members, a subject that they wanted us to cover. So I'm so happy to have you here today. And without further ado, I'm going to let you just dive right into the topic and let you get started.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So an eating disorder, it's defined as like an extreme disturbance in the way that a person is eating. So in their eating behavior. So it's usually related to food and a distorted body image. Okay, so there are four main eating disorders. The first one is anorexia. The second one is bulimia. Then there's binge eating, and there's orthorexia. Okay, so anorexia is defined as like eating, like starving yourself. So having a very obsessed or preoccupied relationship with your body and with food to the point of extreme weight loss and self-starvation. Okay. And bulimia is when a person binge eats to the point where they feel so bad about eating so much, they've overextended their stomach, they feel so guilty, then they purge it all out. Or they look for ways to get rid of that food, either through vomiting, through enemas, through fasting, through overexercising, all those kind of behaviors. And then binge eating is when a person just overeats, like it's called storm eating. They just have an episode of lack of control, extreme compulsive eating in that moment. And then afterwards, they're usually extremely full, their stomach is distended, and they don't feel very good. Okay. So an orthorexia is actually an obsession with healthy eating. So fad diets, getting too much into calorie intake and different, what we would say, like calorie restriction or food restriction, right? So just very, very obsessed. So no longer eating for entertainment, no longer eating for fuel, but just really and thinking that all foods are good or bad, that's orthorexia.
Okay, I have never heard of orthorexia before. That's a new one.
Yes.
So it's more around being like obsessed with, like you said,
healthy eating,
calories, healthy eating. Okay, interesting.
Yes, because it can become extreme. It can become to the point where it's unhealthy.
So can you talk to us a little bit about what are the signs to look for, and how does that become unhealthy?
Yes. So for anorexia, a child with anorexia, it can affect any age group. So usually from the ages of 12 to 35. Okay, any race, any background, any ethnicity. And, if there's a history of eating disorders or a history of depression, anxiety, OCD in the family, there is usually a link to anorexia has been linked to those disorders. So if you have a parent or a family member or a sibling with an eating disorder, they are more likely to experience that eating disorder. So for example, like even with bulimia, if you have a family member with bulimia, you're 4 times more likely to have it.
Wow.
Okay. Yes, and actually, bulimia is also it's usually, you know, a person with average weight, right? It's usually a person with average weight. So if somebody is leaning more towards anorexia, okay, they are very, very preoccupied with their body image and their body weight. So they're going to show signs of not wanting to consume calories, not wanting to eat. Okay. So sometimes these girls, and it could be girls and boys,
Yeah.
they're in an environment where they are criticized for achievement. Okay. So there's a great emphasis on perfectionism, on achievement. And sometimes they are in an environmental situation that is conducive to body image. So, for example, an athlete or a dancer, okay, is more subjected to that environment, and there's a big focus on body image.
Yes.
Okay, so if somebody is experiencing signs of leaning towards anorexia, they will be eating less. They won't want to eat with their friends and family. They will always find ways to excuse being eaten with anybody, like eating with anybody. Sometimes they are over exercising because they are so concerned about their body weight, so they want to keep losing weight and over exercising. Okay. Sometimes they will start to experience symptoms of anxiety and depression. Okay. So if somebody's not eating the appropriate amount of calories and nutrients, they're going to be lacking in their minerals, they're going to be lacking in their vitamins. They're going to start experiencing symptoms of, you know, maybe anemia, right? Low iron, low B12, low vitamin D, low magnesium. So they'll have a lot of different mood changes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So now it's pretty common to have mood changes, right, as a teenager, right? But what you'll notice is that they'll become very irritable, depressed, anxious, because they're not getting the nutrients that they need. They will probably start to maybe experience insomnia.
Mm.
Okay. And their face and their skin and their hair will become more dry, more pale, more brittle, right? And you might even notice that the person is wearing extra layers of clothes to hide their body,
Mm.
right? To hide their body. So those are some of the things to look for. They might start withdrawing from their family and friends as well.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay.
And this is
So yes, those are some of the things to look for. I'm just trying to think what else I have. Like, yeah, those are basically what it is. That's basically what it is for anorexia.
And would you find that those, so as a parent, so to be on the lookout for those types of signs, do you find that those are the same signs for somebody that's perhaps dealing with bulimia as well, or any of the other eating disorders, or is there a shift in behaviors throughout the different types of eating disorders?
Sorry, I think we're having a little bit of an unstable connection. Can you
Oh,
just repeat the question?
yes, sorry about that. I said, do you find that with the eating disorders, do you find that a lot of these patterns are similar, or do they shift depending on what eating disorder somebody could be dealing with?
Yes. So with the different eating disorders, they can shift. So with bulimia, for example, that person is going to want to eat in secrecy. They also will refuse to eat with family and friends. When they do have a binge episode, it's usually in secrecy, right? So that child or that adolescent, usually bulimia starts in adolescence,
Mhm.
they are more likely to be hiding food and stashing food away.
Okay.
Okay, so in their room or at school in their locker, and or even at a friend's house, right? So they are more likely to want to eat carbs
Mm.
and withdraw from family and friends because they want that opportunity to binge eat. Now, If they do have a binging episode, usually they feel very ashamed, they feel very guilty. They'll spend time in the bathroom. Now a person with bulimia is going to start experiencing different physical symptoms. So for example, they will have fluctuations in their weight. Okay, sometimes the doctor will notice that they're up and sometimes they're down, so they'll have a lot of fluctuations. And bulimics usually into adulthood have a history of maybe trauma, abuse, different emotional experiences in their life that have affected them. Okay. So same with binge eating. So usually a person who experiences binge eating, they've usually had some type of emotional trauma that has led them to find comfort in eating and to want to escape. Okay?
Interesting.
Yes.
Interesting. So almost as like a stress reliever, is that how?
Yes. So they found food as an outlet for them.
Interesting. So we're going to talk about a little bit later. We'll talk about what to do if your child has an eating disorder. But before that, I'd like to touch upon, now we just talked about the signs. So
Yes.
being proactive as a parent, and we talked about the age group, because it seems like a lot of this, like you mentioned, age 12. So I know that the moms that are listening, our tween girls are between the ages of 7 to 14. So hopefully if we can catch them even before that age group, what are things that moms and parents in general can do to be proactive, and to perhaps, if there's any way, to prevent our child from having an eating disorder? Sorry.
Such a great question, and I love it. So there's so much we can do as parents, right? So the relationship with food really starts in childhood. Even from that first, solid mouthful, right? And we really do model our relationship with food for our families. So it really starts with us and, modeling a healthy relationship with food. So providing meals that are nutrient dense, that fuel the body, and teaching our children the difference between eating for fuel, eating for entertainment, and mindless eating, and then also binge eating. So just teaching them the difference, and also teaching our kids how to recognize their hunger. Okay. So how to even understand what hungry feels like, because a lot of us don't even know what it feels like to be hungry.
Can you touch
right?
on that? Can you, for those who are listening and are wondering, well, how do I know if I'm like really hungry? Can you quickly touch upon that?
Oh, yeah. So there's a few types of hungers. There's actually 6 of them. I won't go into all of them right now, but sometimes we're dehydrated and we just need water. We're not really hungry. Sometimes our stomach feels very empty. That is true hunger, right? When our body is lacking nutrients, sometimes we're low in a vitamin or a mineral, we'll start having different cravings. Our body will start asking for different foods, right? So just recognizing all of those kind of things will help us to know, okay, you know what, I keep craving this beef, like maybe I need some more iron. Or just teaching our kids at a young age. And we can model this. We can teach our kids to tune in to how they feel when they eat something. Okay. So if they constantly have a stomach ache after they eat 4 slices of pizza, help them without shaming them. Help them to notice how they're feeling after they have certain foods. Okay. Now we can also label our language around foods as, neutral. So not that this food is good or this food is bad. It's simply this food is more used for entertainment purposes. This food is more used for fueling us and for nutrient purposes. Okay. And also teaching them the importance of mindful eating. So I know, as parents, sometimes we like to, there's so much going on, right? We're busy. Sometimes when we have very young toddlers, we like to put them in front of an iPad or a TV. So we don't really teach them the relationship with how they feel and what they're eating by doing that. So encouraging mindful eating, where we're really just sitting and eating and doing nothing else, that's very helpful, because you learn to feel your cues of when you're full, when you're, when you've had enough. You learn to taste the food, right? So, and then encouraging family meals. That's very important. So at least one meal a day, if you can have it, even with just one other family member, right? So it's really nice to eat as a family. If you can get the whole family, that's even better. And teaching kids the importance of gratitude for our food, right? Because there is science that shows the way we digest our food, when it's been blessed or when we're more grateful for it, the digestion even ends up better.
Wow,
right?
that's very powerful.
Yeah, it's so powerful that there's a relationship between blessing our food and feeling grateful for the nutrients, feeling grateful for what we're eating, and how we digest. And there's also a connection with mindful eating and how we digest.
Wow.
Okay, so when we are stressed, eating on the go, rushing to get to the dance class, we're not digesting well. Right?
So that's grounding and taking that time, because I feel like we do live, I mean, COVID has kind of shifted things a bit in that realm, but for the most part, a lot of parents see dinners like it's just rushed, always rushed. So really trying to just, like you said, come back together. And sometimes, like, if it's just with one other person, but no distractions, and just focusing and being grateful for our meal is so important.
Yes. And also addressing any food sensitivities at a young age. Okay. So really noticing the signs of our kids' gut health. So optimizing their gut health from a young age, but also noticing the signs. So if our child has skin issues, such as eczema or constipation, or moodiness, anxiety, different conditions that can be related to gut health. Okay. So making sure that we address any possible gut imbalances or food sensitivities at an early age. So also looking out for those kind of signs. If our child is diagnosed with IBS, if they have frequent urinary tract infections, if they are, experiencing different behaviors in their eating, maybe they're not eating, right? And so that's also very important, because once we address the gut health, we are encouraging healthy neurotransmitters to help the body with mood, with vagus nerve function, with feeling calm, and also digesting better.
Interesting. And would you suggest, I know we're kind of maybe getting a little off topic, but when it comes to gut health, because I know often if you walk into your regular family doctor, they don't necessarily always associate those things to like gut health, and maybe send you off to get more tests. And so would you suggest being a little bit more of like your own advocate, especially when it comes to your kids? Would you suggest maybe even seeing like a nutritionist when it comes to those things? Like, would you even go as further as to suggesting supplements for children, like if they're not eating, or you can't get them to eat certain foods? Is that something that you would recommend? Or like what does a parent do? I guess what I'm getting at is like a lot of times it's so hard to get your kids, even if you're sitting there and you're taking the time, they just like don't want to eat.
Yes.
They end up not getting always the right foods or nutrition. So it's kind of like, what's that next step? And maybe you have noticed like their skin or certain things that are off. So it's like what to do next as a parent.
So as a nutritionist myself, I do notice that when kids are not eating, there is usually some type of sensitivity to a food, or they're most likely constipated, and there is some gut imbalances. So I always recommend working with a nutritionist, maybe seeing an alternative health practitioner for some more guidance on that area. There's a lot of testing that can be done to even like look at gut health and look at the microbiome. And so I definitely suggest working with a professional if the family doctor is, if you're not getting the answers that you're looking for there.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome. All right. And so I guess the last question that I have is, so as a parent, if you suspect that your child does have an eating disorder, what are the next steps kind of to follow? What can you do?
Yes. Before I answer that question, I just want to add one more thing. Also, with regards to your last question, our language around food, our language around our body. So encouraging positive body confidence is so important. So the way we speak about our bodies, the way we speak about how we feel about our body image, our our daughters are listening, our boys are listening, they're absorbing everything, they're watching us, right? So really instilling an attitude of body confidence from a young age is just absolutely important. Working with their self-esteem and 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 processing their emotions if there has been something that's been very pressing in their lives.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so bullying, divorce, toxic relationships with family members, anything that they've experienced emotionally needs to be processed.
Okay.
Okay, so that's just another thing I wanted to add in there. So
Thank you
yes,
so much. Yeah, that's very, very helpful. I think because often when we think about these issues and these disorders, we automatically think of sometimes health as being like our body, what we eat, but there's so much mindset that goes into it as well. Like you talked about the body confidence and the words that we use. And so there's a lot, I think that's almost half the battle, right? Like it's so important to be conscious of like what we're saying and how we're treating our bodies, both physically but emotionally as well.
exactly. So it leads me into answering your last question, what can we do? So one of the first things that we can do if our child does have the eating disorder, for example, if it's anorexia, we want to get the child to a healthy weight. We want to get the medical help, some nutritional counseling, and just make sure that they're gone back up to a healthy weight. With the bulimia, we want to interrupt the pattern of the binge purging cycle. Okay, and with binge eating, we also want to address the root causes of why the child is binge eating and how to interrupt that cycle as well. Okay, and so treatment always involves, psychotherapy, a combination of nutritional counseling and medical treatment. And when I say psychotherapy, there's a range. So it could be any healing modality that helps that person to process their emotions, increase their self-esteem and their self-worth.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
Very interesting. So it's really important, I guess, it's not to just focus on one area, but that holistic approach, like you mentioned, getting the key, like psychotherapy, but also the medical experts and then the nutritionist. So there's a whole team that's involved in really um, helping your child and helping you as well to help your child.
Yeah, it's a whole mind, body, spirit approach.
Mm.
And, all of these disorders are really rooted in some kind of shame, some
Mm.
kind of shame. And it's not any blame on the parents, but sometimes as parents, while our children are growing up, we don't realize that we've been, maybe overly critical or shaming them in some way. Or, sometimes kids are shamed for eating too little or eating too much,
Mhm.
right? And when we force a child to eat, or uh, when we like take food away from the child and say, no, you can't have that, sometimes we are shaming the child, right, and not teaching them to really follow their intuition, or not teaching them to really tune into how their body feels or what their body needs. So we really need to become mindful as parents to watch what we're saying to our children,
Mhm.
and really help them to process any shame, guilt, or any of those kind of feelings that they may be feeling. And that also goes with us processing our own shame.
Yeah.
right? And doing our own healing so that we are not projecting our own brokenness onto our children.
That's huge. It
Yeah.
always starts with us. It really does, because
Yes.
they're looking, they're watching, they're listening. So it does start with us. Thank you so much, Dimple. You've shared so much valuable information. I know that our members are really gonna appreciate all of your wisdom. If anyone wants to reach out to you directly, how can they find you?
Well, thank you, Tara. I loved being here. So my website is mindfulevolution.ca.
Wonderful. And I will tag that as well. So thanks again, Dimple, for being here. And anyone that wants to reach out, I will tag Dimple's website, and you can find her on Instagram as well. Are you on Instagram?
Instagram and Facebook, at Dimple Mindful Evolution.
Perfect. So we will share that in the show notes as well. Thanks so much. And thanks to all of our viewers and listeners that are watching today as well. And if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks again, and have a great day.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for listening to today's show. Don't forget to sign up for our free monthly mother-daughter membership, which gives you instant access to our members-only Facebook group, monthly empowerment toolkit, and much more. Sign up today by visiting www.motherdaughterempower.ca. See you soon.